You might think that solving the Rubik's Cube blindfolded is impossible. And believe me, so did I at first. But 6 months later, and I have multiple blindfolded successes, and in this video, I'll be showing you how you can learn the 303 blindfolded, just like how I did using the old Pokemon method, which is one of the easiest methods to learn. So before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So in blindfolded solving, we solve one piece at a time, and we'll start off by looking at how to solve the edges. So for edges, we have a buffer piece, which is this piece right here, the white of red and white, or whatever piece is in this location. And don't forget, we always have white top and green front. Now, what we do is, if we look at this piece, which was this location on the cube, the white of red and white, right here, we look where this piece has to go. So the white of red white would be here. And where does this piece have to go? This piece goes there. Now, I actually know a pretty easy algorithm that swaps these two pieces, and more specifically, these two colors of these two pieces. And that algorithm is the regular T-perm from OLO. So if you know that, then do a T-perm. And if you don't, this is how it goes. And now you can see that this orange and white piece, which is here, moved over here, but more specifically, the white part of the orange and white edge was here, and it moved there, solving it. Now for the next step, we just look at the buffer piece and the buffer sticker, which is right here, and we see where that one has to go. So we repeat the process. This piece goes there. Now, I only know the algorithm that swaps these two. So how will I get these two swapped? Well, it's quite simple. We just do a setup move to here, the swapping location. And we can do that by looking at the target, which is what we're swapping with, which is right there. And in this case, we just do a move like that, setting it up. And then we can do the swapping algorithm. And then undo the setup move. And now you can see that these two pieces have swapped. But it's very important that you look at this, the sticker, not the piece. Because this piece can go here. But it's more specifically the green that goes there. And we're always looking at the top sticker when it comes to the buffer. Now we just repeat the process one more time. So the buffer sticker is the green one, and that goes there. So we can just do a setup move like that, swap, undo. And now, as you can see, we've solved the cube. Now for setup moves, it's quite simple. Any target in the D face or the bottom, like right here, we can just set it up to this place right here. So if I'm swapping to this color right here, I set it up to this spot, and then just do an L2. And now you can see it's up here. Then we can swap and then undo. And it's the same for that one, and that one. We just set up there, and for this one, it's just an R2. And for any piece in the E layer, or the layer I'm turning right now, then we can set it up to either here or here, depending on what side the target is on. So if we're swapping to here, the red of red green, we can set it up to there with a D wide prime, I think that is, like that, and then bring it up with an L move, swap, and then undo. And if we were to go to here, then we would have to go to the back, because otherwise we would bring up the wrong piece, or part of the piece. So if we just say I'm going to swap to the green, I can move it up like that and undo. And if we want to swap to, well, it's the green again, but this place right here, doing this is wrong, because you can see the edge is flipped, so we actually have to go to the back and then swap and then back. And for every other piece, so these two pieces both of them, and this piece right here. Since this piece we can swap with just no setup moves, but remember that spot is not the same as that spot. For this one and these two, I think that's the only ones, you would set up to either the E layer or the D layer and then just solve it like normally. I guess that would include these pieces as well. So just for example, this piece, to set it up, I would bring it down. Now it's in an E layer, so I solve it like an E piece. So just move it over there, bring it up, swap, and then undo. And now you can see we swap there. For all the setup moves, you can only do D moves, D wide moves, L moves, or L wide moves, because every other move affects these three pieces right here. And if we affect these pieces, then the method does not work. So just use those 4 moves I mentioned before. Now, in this case, let's just solve it like normal. This is the buffer, and the buffer goes there. So we'll set it up by moving to the back, moving it up, swapping, and then moving it back. But now you can see that the buffer is actually solved. Now in this case, what you do is just you choose any unsolved piece. I'll just choose this one, I guess, and swap to that piece, and then I'll just continue as normal. And then that goes there, and then it's solved. Now, if there is a flipped edge, like this, if there's a flipped edge, then you just treat it as an unsolved piece. So swap to it, and then solve as normal. That's there. So set it up like that, and then there. So for corners, it's the exact same thing as edges, except we have a different swapping location, swapping algorithm, and buffer. So the buffer is this orange sticker of the orange, white, and blue. Remember, green front, white top, like always. It's this sticker right here on this corner. And this will swap with this yellow sticker on the red, green, and yellow corner. And the swapping algorithm is once again pretty easy. It's a modified Y perm without the first F and the last F move. So instead of doing F and then the rest of the Y perm, you just skip the F, and there it is. I'll do it once again, like this. And actually, no, not the last F move. That's my fault. Now, another difference is that we have different setup moves. So we're setting up to this sticker right here, and we can only use F moves, D moves, and R moves. Because if we affect this sticker, this edge, these two edges, or this corner, then the method does not work. Now, for these setup moves, it's only a maximum of 2 moves to set up, so it's quite easy to find these, and I'll just go through them all, I guess. For these 3 stickers right here, it's just a D move, and this one is obviously no setup move. Then for this sticker, and that sticker, it's just an F move, so like that for that one. This one is an F2, and then this one's an F prime. And the exact same thing for that sticker, and that sticker. It's just an R move, R, R, R. And for the rest of them, you just set up to one of those 3 or 6 spots, and yeah, go from there. Now, before we continue to memorization, I just want you guys to go through a solve using the blindfolded method, just so that you can make sure that you actually know it properly and you can do it. But when you can solve it with the blindfolded method, then we can get into memorizing and solving it blindfolded. And basically, we're doing the exact same thing. We're looking at where does this piece have to go, and then setting up, and then swapping, and then undoing the setup. But instead of looking for the piece before doing every swap, we memorize all the swaps before executing or starting the turn. And there's lots of different ways to do this, but in my opinion, the easiest way is using the SPEFs lettering scheme, and then making letter pair words, and then making either images or stories from them. Now, that might sound very confusing, but let's go through it here. So the SPEFs lettering scheme is a way to add one letter to each sticker on the Rubik's Cube. So for edges, it goes like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. And for corners, it's basically the exact same thing, but with corners. And it goes like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X. Now, you can memorize however you want, but this is what I recommend. And basically what we do is, first we look at the buffer, like always. And then we just look at where does this buffer have to go. So let's get a quick scramble, and let's do a memorization. And when you do get parity, just remember to do the parity algorithm in between corners and edges. So you start with edge execution, or solving the edges, and then you do the parity algorithm, and then you do corner execution. And remember, it's only if you memorize an odd amount of corners and edges. If you memorize even amount, then that means that you don't have parity, and doing the parity algorithm will mess up your solve. So don't do that. So here we have a scrambled cube, and let's just go through a memorization so you understand. So basically, first we look at the buffer, which is this piece right here, and then we look at well, the sticker, the buffer sticker, which is right here. And where does this have to go? That has to go here, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. This is J. So then we put J in our memorization. Then we look at where does this piece have to go? Well, that has to go here, which is V. So J and then V. And then we add V to our memorization. But now we have a letter pair, J and V. And what can we make from J and V? I think I'll use Java, the programming language. And, well, they make Minecraft out of that, so quite memorable. I just picture the Java logo. Then we look at where does this have to go? Let's go there. That's D. And then where does D have to go? D has to go there, which is W. So DW. What does that make? Down. DW could be down. So Java and then down. So maybe I'll do Java and then an arrow pointing downwards and put that in my memorization. So Java, down. Then we look at the where we were before, and we look at where does this have to go? Well, that has to go here, which is, that's L. And where does L have to go? Well, L goes to the buffer. So don't memorize the buffer. If it goes to the buffer, then that means that the buffer piece is in the buffer spot. And what do we do then? We just pick any unsolved piece. So L, and we'll go to X, I guess. So LX. What does LX? Lex. So maybe you know a girl named Lex. I don't though, so that doesn't really help. Maybe the USS Lexington. That's an aircraft carrier from World War II. So maybe I just picture an aircraft carrier from World War II. So what do we have in our memorization? Java down USS Lexington, the aircraft carrier. So maybe I have the Java logo with an arrow pointing downwards onto a World War II aircraft carrier. And then we just continue that piece, which is X, and X goes to U. So U, and then U goes to T. UT, Utah. So I'll picture the state of Utah. Now, if you're having some problems with remembering all of these pictures, then try to group them into groups of 3 pictures. So I had Java down Lexington, and maybe I'll just make that one picture, and then I'll start a new picture with or picture group, I guess, with Utah, and then A, and A goes to I, AI. That's kind of hard to memorize though. Maybe Ali, Muhammad Ali. So what was it? Utah, and then a boxer standing in Utah, or Muhammad Ali standing on the state of Utah. And then that goes to X. And remember, we've already gone to X. That was our new cycle. Since after we had the buffer here, we got to X. And every time you start a new cycle, which is when you have the buffer in the right place, and you go to a new sticker, whenever you do that, you should always come back to that sticker, the new sticker. So we've come back to this piece. So that's good. That means we know that that cycle is closed. So let's go through our memorization again. We have Java, which is Java. Then we have down, and then we have Lexington, because that's there, L, and then we have the new cycle, so Lexington, and then Utah, Utah, Ali, and then Ali goes to X. Now we've gone to every single piece, which means that our edges memo is done. Now we move on to corners, which would be, this is our buffer, so we look, where does this have to go? That is N. So N, and then N goes to J. And J, that could be New Jersey. And just memorizing New Jersey might be hard, but I'll pick the hockey team from New Jersey, the New Jersey Devils. I'll picture someone in their uniform, I guess, or in their jersey. So New Jersey, and then J goes to L, and then L goes to P. LP, lip. And now this is the buffer. So we have to pick a new piece. I'll go to W. So New Jersey, lip. W goes to S, west. So we have an arrow pointing to the west, or a compass pointing to the west. And then west goes back to the piece we started on for the new cycle, which is O. So New Jersey, lip, west, O. Now we're done with memorization, but there's one more thing that we have to talk about before we execute, and that's parity. So basically, when memorizing, you will either have an odd or even amount of letters memorized when it comes to both edges and corners. So if you have odd amount of corners memorized, then you will have an odd amount of edges memorized. And if you have even, then both will be even. And if you have even on both of them, on both edges and corners, then parity does not apply, so you do the solve as normal by executing edges and then executing the corners. But like we have in this case, we have parity, which is when there's odd amount of edges and corners memorized. And there is a very simple fix to this, and it's a parity algorithm. And the parity algorithm just goes like this. It's the R perm. I think it's the RA perm. Just take a look. No. So now that we know the parity algorithm, we can get into execution, which is when we put on our blindfold and execute from what we already know. So what was our memorization? So we'll start off with edges. What was our edges? It was Java. So go to J, which is right here, and we're going to set that up by doing a dy2 and then moving it up the piece to the top layer, swapping, and then undoing the setup moves. And now we can see it's solved. And after J in Java, it was V. So V is right here. So we set it up by doing a D2, L2, swapping, and then undoing. And now we look at what the next word was. So it was Java down, so D, and that D is the swapping location, so there's no setup move, so we just swap and it's solved. And after D it was W, because we had down, so we go to W. And how can we set that up? We can do a D move there, and then an L2, swapping, and then undoing that. Did I do it the wrong way? I did. There we go. And after down, what did we have? We had Lexington, LX, or Lex, depending on which word you have. So Lex, that's L right here. And then X, because as you can see, the buffer is in the right place. And then we do X, which is just an L2, swap, put it back. And then after Lex, we had our new word, which was Utah. So U is right here. We can set that up by doing there and then there. And then we had T, which is right there, which you can do by dy2 and put it up. Undo. And then we had finally Ali and then X. So Ali, that's A right here. And we can set that up to the bottom layer by doing a dy2. And then we can move this over like normal, like that. And we can undo. And that's backed up there. And then we have I, which is right here. And we can set that up by moving to the bottom layer right once again. Moving it over, bring it up, swapping, down, there, up. And then finally X, which is like that. Oh, we had a flipped piece. And now it seems that I missed this in memorization, which is just a flip. So we just do that like that, and then like that. Doesn't change that we have parity. That's just my bad. I missed that flip piece. Whoops. We had parity. So we have to do the parity algorithm, which went like this. And then we'll continue with our solve with corners. And what was corners? It was, that's a good question. It was New Jersey. So N, like that, swap, bring it up. Then Jersey, which is J right here, swap, bring it up. New Jersey. And then we had lip, like that. P, New Jersey, lip, and then that was the buffer. So the buffer is actually right here, and we memorized that. So we have to go to W, which is right here, and then we go to S, because we had West as a memo. And then after West, we just had W once again. So just move back to W. Oh, sorry, we did not have W. We had O. What am I saying? And then like that. And then it seems that I missed another twisted corner. So we'll just do that by swapping to that piece and then swapping to this piece. That's just my bad. And now we can see we solved it. So good job, guys. Now you know how to solve the 3 over 3 Rubik's Cube blindfolded, which is, well, pretty impressive. And don't forget that it takes some time to get consistent and maybe even get that first success. It took me a couple months of trying and trying until I got my first success. So remember, just keep on going and you will get closer. My biggest tip is just, well, focus on your memo and execute. Well, that's just the whole solve. Focus on your memo. Try to memorize properly. If you need help remembering which pieces to go onto, you can use your fingers, just like this. So A, D, and then it gets hard, but you can do that. And then, of course, use letter pair words, and then images or a story. Both of them work fine. And, well, eventually you will get it. Just keep on trying, and you will be able to solve the Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Now, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please comment what you think in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment any tips, tricks, or video ideas. Check out the +2 podcast, which is in the description. And I'll see you guys all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. And booyah!